and welcome to this week's Thrive Programme podcast. Today I'm joined by Bex Clements, who is one of our coaches, and we are going to be talking today about IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So this was something, Bex, that you have a bit of history with.
Yes,
do you want to explain what it was like when you were in the midst of it?
Of course, yeah. So long story short, when I was younger, and I'll say sort of 8, 9, I started getting a massive fear of having a stomachache. At the time, my parents were just like, it's a normal thing, it's okay, you're going to be fine. But I would be creating a lot of anxiety, which I didn't know at the time, about getting a stomachache. Through the years, that started getting worse in regards to, it wasn't just a stomachache, it would obviously be like a flare up, an IBS, upset stomach flare up. So I then started putting 2 and 2 together and dreading having a stomachache in case I got a flare up. Now, at the time, I was obviously going to and from the doctors as quite a young girl. They were saying that there's nothing physically wrong with her, as so many of us that have been on these podcasts before have had that story of, look, you're fine, just keep a food diary, etc. My parents were getting it to the point where they were like, look, Bex, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But inside, as a young person, it would get to like the evening. That was a thing to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get a stomachache. Something's going to happen. It was a bad time. That then started getting a little bit worse as I got to sort of my teen years, because there's a lot of embarrassment, obviously, that comes from having an upset stomach. There would be school trips that I would dread, and Imodium became my best friend because I started thinking, okay, if I've got Imodium and I get an upset stomach, it's all going to be fine. I'll pop one of those and I'll be good. So I started thinking, this is just something that's part of me, like a lot of people do with the, okay, I get an upset stomach, phobias, things like that. Oh, this is just who I am. I'm just an anxious person. It's just something I have to put up with. So again, I would go into situations, I would have school trips, sleepovers, all of these things. And I think, okay, if I get a flare up, I'll take a pill, or this is just part of me. I started to get to know, I started to become the person that was just the friend that had the dodgy stomach. It was just kind of an ongoing joke of, Bex is going to have a flare up, she's going to have a bad belly. So when I say IBS, I say that kind of loosely in terms of, the doctor would say, yeah, you've got IBS symptoms. These are associated with certain foods. So I started thinking, okay, keep a food diary. Then comes the food avoidance. So obviously you start thinking, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat that because it's going to flare up my stomach, etc. There was never any sort of official test that they did on me for IBS. It was just something that was kind of said lightly and kind of brushed off, sent on your way, pretty much handle it. There was never a conversation that this could have been linked to anxiety. So that was where we were at, as say around 15, 16, roughly years old. Never thought that this could have been something that I was actually creating myself. Obviously, this gets worse and worse throughout my kind of teen years, later teen years, up until I want to say maybe 18 years old. I started thinking about the girls' trips and the holidays and things that I wanted to go on. And to me, that was terrifying. From the minute, even as a child, from the minute a holiday was booked, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get a bad belly. I'm going to get an upset stomach, and I'm not going to be able to go in the sun for too long. I'm not going to be able to drink this or eat that. And obviously then comes in all of the restrictions that at the time I believed were necessary. So, for example, coffee, absolutely not. I didn't ever even try coffee until I want to say I was 21 years old. Obviously, we can talk about that, but like post learning how to control my emotions, that was absolutely not something I would eat. I wouldn't eat fruit when I was abroad, even though at home I would eat fruit. I would just create this link of, if I'm away and I eat that, I'm going to get an upset stomach. So obviously now I know it's things that I was creating, but at the time it was real life. It was, I physically cannot do this, otherwise I'm going to get an upset stomach. It was always the physical side of things, not the mental side of things. I was never even thought about it, even though now I can see that at the time, like I said, from the minute a holiday was booked or a minute something was being spoken about of being away from home for say like 24 hours, every single thing that I did leading up to that was think, oh my God, like literally would be shaking. And I would think, I really, really hope I don't get a bad stomach. Like, what happens if this happens? What am I going to do? How many pills am I going to take? Like, How much medicine am I going to take with me? Where are the toilet stops? Like all of the possible precautions that I thought I could take and that would help me, I was thinking about. So obviously at this point, it wasn't ever about what was going on up here. It was always physical. So that was kind of what life was looking like previously with the IBS symptoms. Yeah.
It makes total sense though, doesn't it? I think anyone who's listened to a few of these podcasts now, there's usually something that's unpleasant. So that tummy ache you had when you were 7 or 8, and it was genuine, and who knows what that was caused by. It could have been anxiety, it could have been a bug, it could have been, but how you then processed that and thought about it afterwards, and you thought, oh my gosh, that was horrible, I couldn't eat this, or that was really horrible when I was in that shopping centre and I felt really uncomfortable and I didn't know where the loos were. So the way that you're sort of banking that experience, totally understandably, because none of us are taught how to think about things at that age, and you do the only thing that you can do, which is manage the symptom.
Yeah.
And it makes total sense, doesn't it? But looking back and the way that you're describing, if anyone's done the Thrive program and has read up to, your thinking and worry thoughts and anticipatory anxiety and that sort of thing, there would have been a lot of that going on.
Yeah. Oh, so much.
Which inevitably, all of that worry and stress and fear has an impact on your body.
Yeah. And obviously at that time, because I didn't realize it, I was thinking, okay, if I can think of all of the things that I can do to stop this happening, if I obsess about it, I'm going to be fine. I'll be prepared and I'll learn what I need to do, what I need to not eat. But actually, all of that energy and all of that time and thinking and anxiety that I was creating, a massive ball up here inside my head, that anxiety was creating the symptoms that I had. And I know that now on the other side of things, because now obviously my life looks extremely different. I am travel obsessed, whereas previously I was travel avoidant, because to me, I put 2 and 2 together. I put IBS symptoms with leaving my house, basically. At the time, because I didn't realize it, that's what I was doing. But now I don't spend months thinking about what could possibly go wrong. I don't think about, what if tonight I get a stomach ache? What that's the worst thing that could possibly happen to me, and creating all of that anxiety, because I now don't do it. Shocker, there's no symptoms that follow. And if there ever are any symptoms that follow, which I do get stomach aches, I do feel sick, I do get bad stomachs, because I'm a human being and that's something that the body does. It's not a massive issue. It's something that I handle and that I deal with. But I look back at so many experiences. I've said this to you previously. I look back at experiences of previously when I wasn't managing my thinking and I didn't know that it was anxiety related. And I would love to go back and relive some of the situations that I've been in. Because, for example, me and my now fiance went on holiday. This was years ago now. And I remember saying to him, I was actually crying, and I was saying to him, my stomach hurts. I know I shouldn't have had that. I think we'd had like some beers or something in the bar, like you do on holiday. I knew I shouldn't have done that, because now I'm bloated and my stomach hurts. And I was really upset. And he was like, Bex, it's fine. Like if you get unwell, we'll just stay in tonight. And I was like, no, because I'm ruining your holiday and blah, 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 blah. And to me, it was such a massive thing, because I'd spent so many years, I'd say sort of like 15-ish years, roughly. I'm not the best at maths. So worried about getting a flare up and having a bad stomach, because I was associating that with so much social anxiety as well, of being embarrassed. So having to tell somebody I need to go to the toilet, or guys, I've got a dodgy stomach, I've got to go. Whereas it's really not that much of a big deal. And I know that now. So if I'm ever in a situation where I'm like, oh, I need the toilet, I'll go to the toilet like everybody else does, because I'm through the other side of knowing that I was creating a lot of my symptoms, a lot of them, 99% of them, to be honest. I know that's not the same for everybody with IBS. This is obviously my personal experience. However, now that I know that, and I know that the worst thing that could possibly happen is that I need to go to the toilet, that's not such a big deal anymore. So it really doesn't matter. I'm not creating all of that fear and all of that anxiety. So if it happens, it happens, and I cope with it. But it really doesn't happen the way that it used to happen anymore, because I'm not creating the anxiety.
And I think you can hear And you can imagine the thinking styles that you would have had that was
Yes.
creating. So a little bit of perfectionism in that I can't possibly
Yeah.
be the one to not be part of the group tonight.
Yeah.
So that pressure you would have put on yourself
Yeah.
to uh, not have a bad tummy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So a big chunk of that behavior, like with many of us, is control,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's like, I can't let this happen.
Yeah.
That would be really awful. So I just need to guarantee to myself that that's not going to happen. So I'm
Yeah.
going to overthink it. I'm going to avoid any stimulant.
Yeah.
But actually, that whole avoidance piece is the very thing that is driving the symptom.
Yeah. It's like that vicious circle of, like we say with like our control is, if I'm prepared for everything, it's going to be fine. But actually, I was physically creating, and that's how strong our thoughts and our brains are. I was creating physical feelings in my stomach. And I know I was doing that because the second I stopped doing it, the second I learned, it did not exist anymore. So for me, it was completely and utterly in my mind. I was creating these physical symptoms. And I know a lot of people out there may struggle, if they're in the deep depths of where I was, may struggle to understand how we can actually, what's the word I'm looking for, think up these symptoms. Trust me, I was the exact same, because the minute somebody suggested to me, oh, it might be anxiety, I was like, no, it's not. It's not anxiety. How can you explain that as anxiety? It really was anxiety, because also, like, kind of side note to this story, pre-Thrive program, I was a very anxious person. My self-esteem, my social confidence and everything were really very low. And if you know me now, you know I'm completely different. I'm just not the person that I used to be, because I've learned how to become stronger and more resilient. But that's a conversation for another day. Yeah, so obviously, if you're where I was at, this is just me giving you a sign that it does not have to be the way that it is now. If you go to the doctors and you get a physical diagnosis, that's not what I had. So I'm not speaking for that pool of people. But if you've been and it's, oh, I don't know, like, this is just, you've not got a diagnosis, it might just be this and that, food diary, etc. I've been there and I did all of that. Now, I'm not saying that you need to ignore physical symptoms. I'm not saying that, but there is a chance that anxiety is something that could be feeding into your symptoms, because I did not for a second even consider that until I found out about the program. I'd learned that a few people had been through it and they'd improved all aspects of their life. So I thought, why not? What have I got to lose? Literally, what do I have to lose? And since going through that, I have improved. Well, all of my physical symptoms are gone. I now don't look at something like that and fear it. I look at it and think, that's just something that's annoying. Like, it is annoying, don't get me wrong. I don't want it to happen. I'm not asking for it to happen, but I'm also not pleading to myself for it not to happen. I'm just going through life, and yeah.
You're more relaxed, and if it happens for whatever reason, you know you'll handle it. It's not going to be too embarrassing anymore or the end of the world, because you're thinking about it. You've got much more perspective, a more helpful perspective on it.
Exactly.
Nice.
And my life's been able to change quite dramatically, to be honest. So, like I said, in regards to anxiety and self-esteem, I was somebody, and this I personally think goes quite hand in hand, I was somebody that just cared about what other people thought of me, which is why the embarrassment of the whole IBS aspect of, oh my God, what if I need to go to the toilet in the middle of, I don't know, uni, or in the car drive with my friends, what if I need to go to the toilet? I was so obsessed with what I looked like to other people that it completely consumed me. And only now that I think, well, I don't notice if somebody gets up and goes to the toilet 5 times during, I don't know, a meeting or during a coffee shop date, whatever, I don't notice it because I'm not looking, because I don't care. It's not my business what these people are doing. Only now am I on the other side that everything else calms down when you stop creating so much fear about thoughts and what people think and what might happen to me. And that's obviously led on to a complete change in who I am as a person and what I enjoy doing. Like I said previously, travel to me was terrifying. So family holidays, I actually feel so sorry for my parents. I owe them such a refund. But so many family holidays we went on, I hated every single second because I was terrified that I was going to get that stomach ache and then I was going to get a bad stomach. And I didn't want to go to like Disney World, for example, because what if I needed the toilet? Like, all of these things And that was a really young age as well. That I'm talking like 9 years old. When I was a teen, my mum took us away, and I just spent the whole time thinking, I was in Tunisia actually, and I thought, I can't be in Tunisia because I'm going to get food poisoning. Like something's going to go wrong here because it's very hot here, and people talk about different countries, etc. But long story short, it was very scary for me because all I had in my mind was, I cannot eat from this buffet. I cannot drink that juice. I cannot sit by the pool and touch this and do that because I'm going to cause myself a flare up. Shock, horror, I did cause myself flare ups because I was creating so much anxiety. But now.
But it wasn't from the fruit or the
No,
water.
absolutely not.
It was from the stress.
It was from the stress I was causing.
Yeah.
I was obsessing so much over what I couldn't do and if I touched and if I did this. Whether I did it or not, I was always going to have a flare up because of my thoughts and the stress that I was creating. And I spent so much time, as lots of you listeners will be doing, so much time obsessing over hoping something doesn't happen, that actually we don't need to be doing that. Because if we learn how to cope with the situations if they occur, we don't need to create all that anxiety. And that's what sets you free from all of it. And that's why now I spend multiple times a year traveling, because I absolutely love it. And that's not to say things don't happen, that I don't get an upset stomach, because I do. Some of the places I've been, I do, but I handle it. And it's really no big deal. It does not matter. It doesn't even cross my mind anymore, because I know that I can cope with whatever comes my way. So there's no need to create anxiety over it.
Yeah, nice. So a question then about your parents, because there might be some parents listening to this.
Yes.
Looking back, did they help? Did they collude? Was it more, oh yes, Bex, do avoid that, that's sensible, that's the right thing to do? What's your thoughts looking back?
Yeah, so I'm smiling because I've not really thought about that too much, but you've just sparked. Funnily enough, they were very different. So when they were together and we did family holidays, my dad was very much collusive because he was the same in regards to, I need to not eat this. I need to maybe not eat at this time of day in case I get a bad stomach. Whereas my mum was very much, no, you're fine. We can do this. You're going to survive. So I had a bit of both, which is why I don't think I got to such an extent that maybe I could have developed sort of a full-blown phobia, because I kind of had a little bit of a level out, but I was very much like my dad in terms of, say, for example, we were somewhere that there was time difference. He wouldn't eat at certain times of day in case he got a bad stomach. And I've not really thought about that until now, which is why I'm laughing. But yeah, so I think there was a bit of both. And I think had both parents been like, look, come on, now we've been to the doctor and we know that physically you're okay, there's nothing that we need to test and there's nothing that we need to do, so you're okay, it's probably a bit of anxiety. If they'd both have said that, I'm sure I would have come out a little bit less scared of the stomachache. But a lot of it was, I was also embarrassed to talk about it. So I started having lots of different thoughts throughout teen years. Sometimes would cross over into emetophobia thoughts that would be, what if I'm sick? What if that? What if that? But I was able to kind of pull back too much from it becoming a massive thing, probably because of my mum. But a lot of what was going on, I stopped talking about because, to be honest, I felt like I was getting a bit annoying, especially as I was getting to kind of late teens, like 17, 18. Lots of 18-year-olds do think, okay, I'm becoming an adult now, I shouldn't be feeling the same way as I was feeling when I was 9. However, if we don't learn how to take control of our thoughts, and it is anxiety related, we need a little bit of help. We need a little bit of understanding of how to take control. Otherwise, it is going to continue. And that's what I found is I didn't want to annoy my parents, to be honest. I didn't want to annoy my friends by talking about it. So I came in on myself. And that's where I wish that I had somebody to say, look, this could be a bit of anxiety. Let's look at it from this aspect, because I didn't have that. So, like I said, I went in on myself. My self-esteem struggled a lot to thrive. And I had to get myself out of a bit of a hole, which probably wouldn't have been so big had it been addressed when I was younger.
Yeah, well, or even it might have been because most of us don't know even how to respond if it is anxiety.
Yeah.
That gives us that route, but then what do you do? How do you help somebody not be anxious? How do you help a child who's worrying not worry? again, that requires a lot of insight and
It does,
understanding and
yeah.
skills, doesn't it, to be
Yeah,
able to help.
yeah,
Going forward, obviously, you know now what you would do in the future if that
100%.
happened. Yeah, at the time, I think it's hard. So, what was it then with the Thrive program? What did you change to not have that symptom anymore?
So the obsessing was the main thing for me. So rather than taking it as, oh, please don't happen, please don't happen, please don't happen, it was gaining just a tiny bit of perspective to learn that, okay, worst case scenario, if it happens, I've been through this like hundreds of thousands of times before, and I've survived every single time. The worst thing that happens is that I get a little bit of an upset stomach, but that's actually it. But because I'd created so much dread around that, the minute I learned that I didn't have to dread it because I survived it, I started to kind of see a little bit of light, and I started to move on and think, okay, next time it happens, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to change my environment, or I'm going to go for a walk. And then 9 times out of 10, I forgot that I was in this pit of stress. And then I learned, okay, when I don't obsess over it, it doesn't happen. So next time it happens, I started to recognize my power and my ability to reduce something turning into a massive, full blown, anxious pit of terror into something that maybe was 20 or 30 minutes of, okay, not a fan of this, but I'm actually okay. And obviously, the more we practice that and the more that we learn and understand our ability to maintain control and to maintain a level of I can do this, the stronger that we get and the stronger our belief in our ability to handle it gets. And from there, once I saw that little bit of light, I was gone. I was through it, and everything else I just lapped up through the process of learning how to control my emotions and how to control my response to everything. And I've never looked back since.
Yeah, yeah. So feeling more powerful, like there was
Absolutely.
something you could do to
Yeah,
affect the outcome,
yeah,
then understandably you did those things and got
yeah,
better and better at it, which meant you felt more able to cope.
yeah,
You believed in yourself and your ability
yeah,
to affect the outcome more. So your self esteem came up. And that meant then you didn't need to control so much. You didn't need to have so many what ifs and
absolutely.
imagine the worst case scenario, which
Yeah,
of course brought the anxiety and pressure down.
yeah.
And that affected your symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. And once I understood that, okay, so the doctor had only gone so far and there was only so many answers I was going to get, it was either spend my life feeling anxious and worried about things or giving myself a chance to take back a bit of control. So once I learned about the program, and so a couple of my friends had been through the program, said it was amazing, and I thought, okay, let's see what this is all about. I might as well, because the doctors aren't going to do anything, because they can't do anything for me. So let's learn about maybe my anxiety side of things. And the minute that I learned that I did have the ability, and I started to recognize that actually I was making differences, because it doesn't go from 0 to 100. You don't suddenly learn that we've got power and then everything is fixed. You have to make little changes every day and small steps. And then you look back after, say, even 2 weeks, and you think, wow, okay, I controlled that situation and I reduced the anxiety of that situation. And look at where I'm at now. I feel really good. I feel really powerful. So once I knew that there was even if there was a 5% improvement on my physical symptoms, it would have been worth it. But for me, the more that I learned and the more that I controlled the way that I was responding to situations, the more stronger I got and the more powerful I got, and the more I knew that actually this was down to me to make the change rather than somebody else. Because I was sort of, as we do, as when we're younger, and if you don't know about the the power that we have, you do kind of look externally, don't you? Oh, the doctor needs to help me. Like, once they know what's wrong with me, I'll be fine. I'll be absolutely fine. So when they don't have an answer for you, it's very helpless, and it's very, oh, okay, well, I either accept this or I try something else. And trying something else was the best thing that I ever did.
Yeah, I think helpless is a good word. It's
Mm-hmm.
a strong word, isn't it? But we call it learned helplessness,
Yes.
right? The number of visits you could have to a doctor who tells you it's anxiety, but then doesn't give you a clear path out.
Yeah.
You are training yourself to think about that symptom in a helpless way. And of course, you're going to do the managing the fruit intake and not traveling and stuff, because that feels like the only avenue you've got.
Absolutely. And like I said just now, it's not about avoiding these situations. Going through the program doesn't mean that we will never be in a situation where our stomach hurts or never have an upset stomach and things like that. But your perspective and your response is completely different, because you know that undoubtedly you can handle whatever happens, whether you have a phobia, whether you are extremely anxious, whatever it is. You learn to recognize the power and the ability that you have to reduce basically how extreme of a response you have. But it's
Yeah.
only when you know how to do that that you can take back control. And
Yeah.
that's obviously what we learn in a really fun way as well.
Yeah, yeah. So your IBS, your sort of stress related tummy issues have cleared up. You have other tummy issues from traveling to lovely places and eating lovely food and inevitably having a few extra beers.
Yeah,
And that's life, right? And that's
yeah.
fine. But what else then has changed in your life? So you kind of went through the Thrive program thinking, if this helps with my tummy issues, happy days. But what else have you noticed?
How much time have you got, Lucy? Because wow. So first of all, I was the people pleaser, complete and utterly lived for other people's approval. That is complete polar opposite now. It doesn't mean that I don't have friends
I
that
don't care.
I don't care for anyone. No, it doesn't mean that, but it means decisions that I make about my life now are based on what I want to do, not what I think other people think I should be doing, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah.
So that has changed dramatically. Friendships have got more meaningful for me, actually, which I didn't expect. Was something completely random for me that I didn't think would go hand in hand, but actually it makes a lot of sense. I used to have loads and loads and loads of friends, um, little people that I could really count on and that were really, really special friends to me. Now that I make decisions about who I want in my life and who I care about, my friendships are amazing. I love my friends. My family relationships have got better because people don't have to tread on eggshells around me anymore, because I'm not going to be offended by things. And also, I feel like I'm a better person for people around me because
Yeah.
I give them real advice if they ask for it, and real opinions versus, oh, what do they want me to say? Like, maybe I should quieten down a little bit. And that's not me saying I'm rude. I'm not a rude person.
No, I hear you.
I'm an honest person. And like I said, it's really nurtured the relationships I've had. My personal relationship has never been better, both of which have been through the program. But there was a lot of, I was prioritizing other things. I was scared about everything. Obviously, I was the person that didn't want to go on holiday because I was scared. So obviously, naturally, everything's just come better. So relationships massively, and just confidence in who I am and how I handle things. I never believed would get to this point, and it has, because I've got belief in myself. So for example, even tiny little things that come up in everybody's life, money struggles, for example, career prospects, everything like that that people think about. Obviously, I never would have pictured 6 years ago that I would be a Thrive program coach. And now I am, and I'm loving every single second of it. But I wouldn't have had the confidence to even think about something like that back then. So when I say everything, I literally mean everything has got better. And yeah, since going through the program and since becoming who I am now, I'm actually proud of who I am now, and I actually like who I am now. And I absolutely could not have said that 5, 6 years ago. No way.
Well, you would have been focusing on the bits you didn't like
Oh,
and
100%.
thinking, comparing yourself to other people, which
Absolutely.
inevitably always makes you not feel very good.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And if you hadn't have had friends and a now fiance who'd done the Thrive program, so if you didn't know about it, where do you think you'd be now?
Oh, good question. To be honest, I think, oh, Lucy, that's a really good question. I think I still would have been somebody who kind of just coasted along, because that's what I was doing. I was coasting. I was kind of working a job that I really didn't like. I was putting up with treatment actually in that job that was I certainly wouldn't put up with now. I probably would just be, again, very helpless and very, why do things keep happening to me? Very negative and very low confidence. Yeah, that's all I can think of really, because I can't quite imagine myself back then. So Yeah,
Nice.
certainly wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. No way.
Yeah. And what tips then would you give someone? I mean, you've talked about various things and you've said enough, this is my story. There's probably other things going on, but I do think even if there's a genuine medical cause, there is always a psychological, emotional element to it anyway.
Yeah.
So you're only going to better your experience of having a genuine medical issue if you've learned to manage your thinking and keep perspective and use your imagination to help you and believe you can handle whatever you need to handle. What would be your top tips for somebody maybe struggling with IBS at the moment?
My main tip would probably be trust in yourself and leave your comfort zone, because I know that might sound a little bit off topic from IBS, but because it's very hand in hand in my case with the anxiety, when you're in that and you're so protective of yourself and so restrictive, there's no way out, it feels like, anyway. Obviously, what I say to clients is we have our protective barrier up, and sometimes we need to just poke a hole in one of them to see a little bit of light. Go with that, even when you don't want to leave your comfort zone. Try something new, because the more that you prove to yourself that you can do things even if it's scary, the more your world opens up. Because IBS in an anxiety related way is not going to improve, your symptoms are not going to improve if you stay trapped. And that's how I felt. I felt trapped. I felt like this was just who I was, and that I just basically had to just get on with it and always carry my massive sack. You would laugh if you saw it. Massive bag, I'll say, of pills I would take, like Imodiums, anti-bloat, insane amount of stuff that I'd collated over the years. You don't have to live like that. So yeah, my one main piece of advice: push yourself out of your comfort zone every single day, just by one tiny little thing. Say hi to 5 strangers, or wear some odd socks, whatever it might be, because the minute you start proving to yourself that you can, you take back control.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything food, drink, tummy related, right? It can be other things where if you're, all of us are safely living in a comfort zone, whether it's socially, whether it's food wise, whether it's travel wise, whether it's anxiety wise. We're in patterns of thinking, patterns of behavior the whole time. So what you're saying is challenge it a bit, change it a bit. And it feels uncomfortable and it feels a bit scary, but actually you prove to yourself nothing really is going to happen. Or even if it does, I got through it.
Exactly.
And that's what you need to have.
Exactly. Yeah, just throw something out there for yourself. And like you said, that's really important, actually. Thank you for saying about the food and things like that. You do not have to go from 0 to 100 and try something like that, because if you'd have said to me previously, go and have a coffee on holiday, I would have said, no, like, are you mad? Absolutely not. And that would set you up for a situation of feeling defeated. So try something small, get out there, because nothing bad can come from leaving your comfort zone. You're always going to learn something. Like you said, even if it's a little bit scary and a little bit uncomfortable, you'll be so proud of yourself for doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So where's your next trip?
My next trip, back to Asia over New Year currently. Haven't yet booked it, trying to work out whether to book a wedding or book that first, but we're both a bit travel obsessed, so probably back to Asia. The Philippines, maybe.
Lovely. Oh, it's so lovely to hear your story, and I'm sure a lot of people will relate to how you used to be. And if you're listening to that thinking, gosh, maybe this Thrive program might help me, then reach out, get in touch with Bex, and you won't regret it. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
No, thank you for having me. It's been really fun.